So I support, I think we have 79 to 80 support agreements, from onesie twosies like in units to large units like PACAF, where we will provide, all of their support from like base communications, legal support, etc., finance, MPF, so that these other units that are out here, we're able to help them, not have to do the admin type stuff, but get their airmen squared away so they can focus on their mission out here in the Pacific. So that's one large piece. But then we're also the mission wing. The mission wing where we're providing DV airlift. We're also providing strategic airlift throughout the Indo-PACOM on behalf of the PACAF commander, and then also for Indo-PACOM as the air component. We also have the F-22. We're part of an associate there where right now, the Guard is lead and we have a secondary role, but because of what happened with Hurricane Michael years ago, we actually have 7 active duty jets, which has brought our numbers up quite a bit. And we are pretty much on par with the amount of pilots and our capabilities that our Guard counterparts do. So we provide homeland defense as well for the state of Hawaii, and then also the force projection out into the theater with 5th gen assets. We also have a very large, robust medical team that does all of the CCAT, which is going to be our specialty care teams that are going to be in and around the theater. We provide the AE mission that goes around if anybody's injured, to include active duty and their dependents. And then in wartime, what does that look like to bring them back, to recover them here, put them up to TAMC. Our maintainers are expeditionary. They're everywhere throughout the theater, being able to provide when it's needed, real-world maintenance to keep those jets airborne and rolling. And then if you look at our logistics support teams, the Pacific is massive in scale. So our logistics support team here, through our LRS, through our CE functions, are critical. We make up 50% of Indo-PACOM's power projection platform for the entire Pacific. If you look outside, everything is exactly the same. There hasn't been really any change or modification. We live and work on a national battlefield. So this is the building that you had the commander sounding the alarm, looking out on the field as we watch the Japanese come in and raid Pearl Harbor and then kill over 300 airmen who were trying to defend this base. But this picture here is Hickam Ramp in 1965 for the Vietnam War. I have my historian that's going and pulling pictures from every single era that we ever had. And this is what our ramp looks like. It looks exactly the same. All the hangars are the same. The pictures are the same. But this is indicative of every contingency, every war, anything that we ever had. Hickam is the place where people will come, transverse through, or we fight and we win. So we often say here, as Hickam goes, so goes the war. So they have been an integral role in every major conflict, to include Afghanistan. My airmen were out there returning refugees back from Afghanistan at the end when we closed it out. And they've been a part of everything in between since World War II and before that. These buildings are original. So that's why you can see the lovely infrastructure that we have here. But it's historic in nature, which reminds you of our past while we still have to continue to look at the future. And I think Hickam does a great job of representing that, because we're never too far from our past. If you walk past any of these buildings, you will still see like the original shrapnel, the original bullet holes. And we've never covered that up, because we need to be reminded every day that this happened and it could happen again. And are we ready for what comes next? It's a great privilege and an honor. I don't think I got it before I actually took command here, because I think we think of Hickam as like this garden spot. It's tropical, it's beautiful, nothing bad can happen here, but it has. And then we can't pretend that just because it happened once, it won't happen again. So it's the constant reminder, and our airmen get that. They know from day one I've been preaching readiness, because if we're not ready, then we're not going to win. But the secondary thing that we are talking about is taking care of airmen and families. It's about resiliency. And if I do that, they're going to be ready. So a resilient airman is a ready airman. And so I think they get that. And we practice really, really hard. I'm a big proponent of compassionate leadership, which means I'm going to put it to them pretty hard, because I don't think China's going to let up. And so we're going to exercise them, and we will continue. We have a very robust readiness plan coming up And we have a readiness plan that's built out for 2 years. No matter when you look at it, it's built out for 2 years. Our airmen are aware, they're connected to where they fit in into the larger PACAF mission, and they're proud of that. And because of that, I feel pretty honored and blessed that I get to lead a team that understands that they have an amazing impact in the defense and security of this nation. I don't think that we can do anything here in the Pacific without partners and allies. And we are really fortunate to have a great partner and ally with Australia. We do a lot of work as well with the Kiwis, and we have to do that in order for us to be successful. Our DCOM is Australian. He lives right across the street from me, and he constantly brings in the perspective that we may, as Americans, not be thinking about. And it's critical for us to be able to work side by side, and that interoperability is so key. Yes, you all have C-17s as well. I ask my airmen, if you show up to a location and you see an Aussie maintainer, what are you going to do? He's going to fix my jet. That is correct. We have to work side by side in order to be able to grow our capacity to build our effects in this theater. And we can't do anything without partners, right? From basing to assets. If you look at like the wedge tail that Australia now brings to the fight that we don't have yet, it's key and it's critical. And I'm excited that they're here for JPMRC, which is a certification event for the 15th Wing. We've got 8 tails, hundreds of airmen out there doing their very best to be able to provide the effects that the Indo-Pacific commander is going to need to do in case of war. So that doesn't happen without partners and allies that have been fantastic. And so we work side by side, and there really are no gaps and seams between us, and we have really good relationships. We hope to continue to build those relationships so that when they're here, it's not a, oh, hey, there's somebody new. It's like, no, we know them. And so we do have that opportunity then to build long-lasting relationships. And we are working on a couple of new programs and new missions that we're going to be getting. And we're relying very heavily on the Aussies to be able to provide us with training because they have been doing it and now we're trying to learn from. So it's very symbiotic, like we're working together in order to make things happen out here. None of us are sitting there saying, well, here are my desired learning objectives, my DLOs, and we're doing them in a vacuum. Everything has to nest in, it has to be sequenced. And so from the very beginning of JPMRC, and this started over a year and a half ago when we did our first one, when the Army approached us, and it was at the 06 level and below. It's just an implied task as a commander. How are we going to work with all of the components to be able to provide the effects when they're needed? And so we started sitting down and planning, and it's not the Army is asking for anything specific, and we're just providing support. There are objectives that we need to as well. And then we started growing it out. Well, it's not just us. Who else in the AOR is going to need these types of effects in this training? Oh, the Aussies also need it. So how do we get together right at the beginning, at the very early in the planning stages to see who goes where when, what can we do? And we're going to actually take it, and I've signed off where I've got Australians flying with our crews, and we have mixed crews because it doesn't make a difference. We're all trained to do the same job at the same standard. So what difference does it matter with what flag you're wearing on your arm when we're trying to deliver the same effects for the same intent? Hickam has always been a critical node here in the Pacific, so I don't see that changing at all. What I do see is that maybe the roles of Hickam changing slightly. We are bringing more partners and allies out here to do more integrated training within the Pacific. You know, similarly to what we do out in Las Vegas or up in Alaska, but actually doing those types of training events here and building on relationships and then integrating all the other components, whether it be Army, Navy, Marines, and really trying to build this into something fantastic. We'll see this displayed at RIMPAC next year, but then how are we going to do this organically from just maybe just the air component, how we can bring others in? I think you're going to see a large expanse on that. You may see different weapon systems over the next few years coming through, and that's part of our recapitalization and being able to build that out to make sure that we can provide that next gen aircraft for what the future threats. You know, we have some of the greatest weapon systems out there, you know, between, you know, the US and our partners and allies, that, you know, the technical piece is there. But it's the airmen, regardless of uniform, that make the difference in how we win. They are technically savvy. They are thinking in a way that operates, because I'm a Gen Xer, and you know, this next generation, they're just so capable of being able to take all these data pieces coming in, and they're empowered to be able to make decisions in a way that I feel will be the difference maker in whatever conflict or contingency we have. And so I'm very proud of them. They train hard, they play hard, and they have a great attitude with this thing hanging over their head that this could happen. I often challenge them. I say, will you be ready? Was that training good enough, or do you need to see it again? I want to show you that again, ma'am. Yes, because when that no-notice check ride from China happens, are you ready? Did I do my job? Are you trained, and are you prepared for what comes next? And the answer is resoundingly yes. And so I am very proud to lead this wing and know that they're going to be the reason why we win.